Hello everyone, welcome to the show. As promised, we've got an interview with Steve McDonald. So without any further ado, Steve McDonald. Enjoy.
Okay, so yeah, we're going to talk about Sparks. We have, what do we have, like 15 minutes, 20 minutes?
I know, we have forever. I don't play, I don't even be back there until like 9 or something.
All right, clock
yeah, no
over there.
Okay, all right, and then we'll ask you all our questions.
Hold you hostage.
And unfortunately, I have a habit of, you might have to edit me at some point, because I'm out. I just had my first coffee in a while.
Okay.
We have to edit coffee. We edit ourselves.
Yeah. I'll try to be succinct, but
you're good.
You're very professional.
Yeah. Oh.
It will be Ron and Russell approved.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We'll get their endorsement.
Okay. Okay, well, I get to ask an easy question because I know you started young. Just was the bass your first instrument or musical before that? Okay.
Bass, first instrument. I played stand-up bass in the school orchestra.
Oh, starting like elementary school, they had a program?
Yeah, like fifth grade. It was a plot to get my parents to buy me an electric bass. There was another kid in the orchestra that had like this cool Vox bass, and we just kind of figured, me and my brother figured that out. That for whatever reason, the orchestra had the one electric instrument was the bass, but they also had stand-up basses. So I played the stand-up long enough to learn "King of the Road," bum 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 bum, which I knew as a Budweiser commercial, but at the time, so I played that for them. They were impressed enough to buy me a little bass.
And so did your brother start in elementary school band as
well? No, he never did it. He didn't, no, but he was also, he's older, so he got to choose the guitar, like the bass is always, bass players don't choose to play bass. As far as
we were suspecting that might be the reason that you had an older brother.
Yeah. The bass player is always like someone's friend.
I need a bass player.
Yeah, like someone's friend or date or someone. That's who ends up playing bass. But it was, so with my brother, it was, but my parents wouldn't buy him an electric guitar for whatever reason. They didn't think that he would stick with it. So he actually had to go out and get a job and get a job in a fish and chips shop long enough to buy a $50 Stratocaster copy. So,
okay. So have you ever played live since you became famous, like with stand-up bass? Do you ever do that?
Well,
do you have one?
Well, never in a rock situation, but I did go back to school in my early 30s, and I bought the stand-up bass in like community college. So if you count that as live performance, then I did play with the Pasadena City College Orchestra and their summer band as well. Played like some gazebos for vets, and we did like. I
would like to see you do like some backup, like stand-up bass in your like senior years. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Take it down a notch.
It's hard to play. And I always would play these school instruments. They're more, it hadn't been set up in years, so it was like holding down bridge cables. It was really difficult.
So 5th grade. So how long had you been playing before Red Cross?
Well, yeah, not long. So in 5th grade I started to stand up, and then by the time I was in 6th grade, we had talked my parents into the electric bass. And so, and then the second we had real guitars, we were already writing the songs that were on our first EP. So songs like Annette's Got the Hits and I Hate My School, those were written when I was still in 6th grade. And so, so
right.
It was
not long.
Yeah, maybe a year.
And you were writing the songs? Or
I wrote riffs, and then, like I wrote the riff to Annette's Got the Hits and things like that.
Cool.
I think those songs have stood the test of time.
Well, at least, I mean, it's interesting that, I recently suggested that we teach the kids at our elementary school, my son's elementary school, because everyone's trying to make a concert happen. There's a bunch of musicians at our school and whatever, and some of them are kind of famous and stuff. But I'm like, anyway, I threw out that suggestion, like, well, because people have actually sent me films too of like School of Rock kids playing Annette's Got the Hits, and
That's awesome.
So I threw out that
tribute.
Yeah, and I also thought, I was like, well, I wrote some songs when I was like 10 that we could maybe teach the kids. Songs like I Hate My School. And it's funny, but the weird thing is that no one responded to that. I'm still
Does your son play?
No, he's not interested. He's just into, he has a little drum kit, and he's got behind it and showed natural skill. Yeah. And he sings, he's got natural skill, but when he talks about my music, it's like, that's old music. That's old. He's really into basketball. He's really into sports. And
they always kind of go the other way. Yeah. And you're going.
Yeah, which was fine with me.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
You know, I mean, my thing was when Alfie, his name is Alfie, when I first found out I was going to that we were having a boy, for the relief that it was all good and healthy and all that.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh no, I have to coach baseball. But then everybody around me was like, don't worry about it. I mean, both parents are musicians. It's not going to happen. And I suspected that wasn't the case. But then I just realized, I know nothing about sports, so he can teach me about it. And that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. It's wonderful. It's a two-way street if it's working.
Yeah, well, because the Melvins are really into baseball, and they tried really hard. I've been playing with them for like 3 years, and they're trying to get me into it. I'm just like, yeah, that's your thing, you guys. Okay. And it's like, no, not me. But Alfie got heavily into basketball, and it's the first time I've ever sincerely been interested in sports, and I've never felt more normal in my life.
I wasn't really, Lou, our son, ended up being allergic to grass and the sun. And so we were like, what are we going to put him in? Because my parents wouldn't let me play sports, so it was like...
They wouldn't? You wanted to play sports?
Yeah, I wanted to play, and they said, no, that's a waste of your academic time or whatever. So I was like, I'm going to put my kid in sports, and then they won't do drugs and blah, 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 like I did.
Yeah, right.
And then he was allergic to everything, so it's like, well, what can you play? Oh, hockey, which I had never even been to a hockey game in my life. So now the last, 10 years.
So you play hockey?
Yeah, I play hockey, and then this coming year is my last year that I can play rec hockey up at Steiner.
Yeah, so I got into hockey, and I'm like you. Wow, I kind of feel like a normal person.
Right?
Yeah,
I also did a short stint with rugby.
Yeah, rugby. That's
no good.
Isn't there grass involved in rugby? How does that work with your grass issue?
Well, it's not as bad anymore, but now I'm like fine with grass.
Right.
The problem with rugby was I got a bunch of concussions.
Right, yeah, that's really rough. Well, your ears get all messed up from rugby, right? Like,
sometimes, yeah.
I mean, maybe, I don't know if they're doing that with junior rugby, but...
They can happen.
Yeah, right.
It can happen.
He's a straight A student, and there will be no more rugby.
There will be more rugby.
That's great.
All right, what we got next on the agenda here, Matt? What are we?
Well, I'm going to skip a couple questions. I think we covered some.
Okay, sorry.
But, I think it answered just about the lessons, learning at school. And this is kind of an about face, but we're all huge fans of Spirit of 76. For different reasons. I was born bicentennial.
I'm also a bicentennial.
Two bicentennials.
Oh, you guys are both. You guys literally are.
Both 42.
76. You guys definitely have the spirit.
Yeah.
Yes, we love the spirit. We always were told we were special.
It's patriotism, basically.
Wow, that's great.
But the movie has an awesome vibe. I mean, the cast and crew had a really good time making it. I mean, you had Olivia Jabo from Wonder Years in her prime in that. Coppola's. Tell us just about, was it a blast making it? Were you just having the time of your life? Yeah,
it was really fun. It was, we shot it in Alameda, California.
Oh, sure.
If you know what Alameda
is. Navy.
I grew up.
Or Coast Guard.
It's a little island just on it's East Bay, San Francisco.
That's where I grew up,
yeah, and it's a small, I think there's a Navy base there maybe or something. And my brother and I were put up in a nice condo at the marina on Alameda. So we were we had this bachelor lifestyle condo.
Shangri-La.
And these are the important issues of how the filming went. But and then they set up sort of like a mock soundstage in some kind of industrial warehouse they repurposed in Alameda. And then Alameda is also like I don't know if it still is, but it had like an old town, an old style old town main street that was really untouched. And, so we did like a whole month or two there, something, I can't remember. It was longer than a month.
That's awesome.
It was really fun.
Cool.
I mean, I just think of the McDonald boys getting to play dress up in every outfit imaginable. Like, did you have your pick of everything? You think of, we think of videos like Annie's Gone, and like what happened to those great costumes from that era? Oh,
many of them I still have.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, some of them are kind of in the, I saved like...
Are you the same size?
Many parts.
You're
yeah. It depends on what the season is, but for other parts. But and I saved like one big sort of like wardrobe moving box of the finer, threads.
Cool.
And a lot of it is mostly around that Third Eye era, the Spirit of 76. And then, but I mean, the one thing though about the one thing I've always had to, just deal with is I have a size 14 foot. So,
sure.
So that I didn't really have my shoes of the run of, the rack.
Sometimes you get the great shoes that the 14 is the only one left, and then other times they don't make that shoe in your size. So,
exactly.
We live with a size 14 that has that
problem. Like bowling shoes and steel toe boots. You couldn't wear Vans like everybody else.
Well, I had some Vans, but it's kind of my foot. It seems to still be growing because I was a traveler for a long time, but now I should be officially a 14. But the main thing that we always wanted, trying to find like kind of platform boots, and at that time it was always hard to. So we'd find these weird like 70s ankle boots. At least I would, and then I would. With silver marker, turn them into Kiss boots.
Nice.
They didn't quite have 6-inch platforms, but a 2-inch platform was even still fun.
So were these clothes that were thrown out on all the Sunset Strip, like leftover from the Whiskey A Go-Go, that sort of looking clothes?
Well, yeah. So we started, because we started when we started Red Cross. The first time we really got to play shows and stuff was when we were, after we met another local band, which was strange to find any band at all in our neighborhood. And we just so happened to find a very, formative, Black Flag. And, and they were Black Flag at the time or throughout their entire career. They were old, they were older than us. They were in their early mid-20s. And they were coming out of the arena rock era, which they were all big fans of. But by the time they started their band, it was a reaction to that. Mm. So they had this real sort of belief system that you couldn't like dress up and have like, and create this other environment when you played a show that was somehow inauthentic.
Yeah.
And not, wasn't truly punk, you were a poser or whatever. And so early on, we just, and we were trying really hard. We're not posers, we're punk too. So we would try to, another thing was that you had to, because if you were a punk, if you truly were a punk, you couldn't just dress punk before you went to the show. You had to be punk all day. So, and it was easy for them to do. They were in 7th grade, it was harsh for me. But, and I still was sort of moderate but even just like a little bleach patch in my hair in 1979 or whatever was like, full blown craziness. And,
the parents,
it really created a big thing. But so a couple of years later, when we were kind of starting to drift from that whole scene, that's when we were like, you know what, I want to get back into the stuff that we liked when we were younger, like Kiss and the Stones, and they looked cool, Alice Cooper. And what we would do is on our way home from gigs, I remember the first time doing this, there was one of those big like Salvation Army drop-offs containers. in the supermarket parking lot, where people would just dump all their clothes in it, and have like, it was sort of like a gigantic mailbox with a big door that came out, and we actually figured out how to dive into there and be in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when
pull out all the estate shit stuff that didn't sell.
So I remember getting, like, we were like, whoa, we found these huge, like, patchwork bell bottoms. So gigantic, like, for whom do these bells toll? That kind of thing. And so that was our first, sort of, mining.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, all of that stuff was always thrift store, secondhand. Okay. Every once in a while we'd find a dead stock place, like those pants that my brother's wearing on the cover of that Hot Issue record. Both of us are probably wearing like Wranglers that we found in a dead stock Wranglers from 1968.
Wow.
And just a reference, that's the cover of Hot Issue.
Yeah, Red Cross Hot Issue. It's a record that my brother put out recently on his own label, Red Cross Fashion.
And it does have one of your covers. It's Steve McDonald.
Does it have
Motorboat?
It has Motorboat. Yeah,
it has Motorboat on it.
I cover the Kim Fowley classic Motorboat. When it was actually originally recorded as a solo single or solo EP, but my brother reappropriated it because he approved, I guess. We'll just call it Red Cross. And, is Motorboat on there? Yeah, it's like, track 2.
Yeah. That's a great one. And he's also got,
that's nice.
The other version of Stay Away from Downtown, which was written as a ballad.
Oh.
Is that true?
Oh, Don't Take Your Baby Downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should listen to Hot Issue. This is the Spanish version, right?
It came from Spain. Right?
Yeah, this is the Spanish version. That's great. And, on Red Cross Fashion. And actually, this record's going to come out again. It's the first time it's going to be issued by Merge Records. Are going to put it out.
Cool. That's
cool. I think at the end of this year. But you guys are much cooler than everybody else. So, so long before
So back to his question about 76. Did you? Is that the only movie you've ever been in? I think.
Well, that's the most legit movie. Probably.
That's the most legit movie.
Yeah, and then the largest role. I've had a few cameos in some other real movies. I'm in a filmmaker named Allison Anders.
Okay.
She did this great movie called Grace of My Heart, which is basically based on the story of Carole King.
Oh.
It's a really good film. I suggest it.
Okay.
Check it out. Grace of My Heart. It's a great film. It's starring Ileana Douglas.
Okay.
And Matt Dillon is in it too. And Matt Dillon is supposed to be sort of like this Brian Wilson character. And so I vaguely got to play like a Carl Wilson character. Yeah. And we're in the studio hearing pet sounds for the first time, having like really bumming out on it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's my brother and me, and then Brian, an old drummer in Red Cross. Anyway, Jay Maskus is the engineer.
Okay.
It's very funny. But Spirit of 76 was sort of inspired. The reason we're in that film, and we were definitely heavily consulted all along the way, was because Roman Coppola, his father, Francis, had, like, for his 19th birthday or something, like, given him a film company. Be a producer.
Congratulations.
Lou's gonna he's gonna use that against you.
Yeah.
You never give me anything I want. Like, I want a film company, for instance.
Just give me something to run.
So Roman was a fan of these Super 8 films that we had done before called, there were 2 of them, and they eventually came out on SST records. The Black Flag Record Company put out these movies on video, and one's called Desperate Teenage Love Dolls, and then the second one was Love Doll Superstar. And they were these films that we did with our friend Dave Markey. He had a Super 8 camera. And just our whole crew of friends, we'd get together on the weekends. We had a loose idea. The movies were inspired by, mostly by the Russ Meyer's film Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, and then a lot of sort of reference to like John Waters and SNL, too, early SNL. Okay. So and there was this story we came up with this very loose idea of an all-girl rock band and their meteoric rise to fame, and then of course they come crashing down. And it's also inspired by the story of the Runaways too. Oh, okay. And that's another Kim Fowley reference, because in the first movie, the first Love Dolls movie, I play the A&R guy who discovers them and abuses them, a la Kim Fowley, and then so and then Kim Fowley actually even showed up. We did a premiere for the first one, Desperate Teenage Love Dolls, and originally it was entitled Desperate Teenage Runaways, and Kim was convinced that we were ripping off the Runaways story, we were stealing his story, and he showed up at the premiere, which was like at a little dinky club in Hollywood, and a couple hundred people showed up to watch the Super 8 projector on the wall, and Kim said, if Joan Jett was here, she would punch you in the face, and I've got a blowtorch in the trunk of my car. Yeah, and it was really funny, and
he's more insane than the stories we've heard. That's crazy.
Yeah, so that's how I met Kim Fowley. He was threatening us with a blowtorch. That's the first time I met him. And then at many other
Super 8 film.
Yeah, over our supposedly stealing their music and everything, but and stealing their story. But he didn't like the homage. Alibi. It's an homage. Yeah, I've got a blowtorch in the car. Like that. But he was so quotable, that Kim Fowley. It was crazy. And then he used to call us and stuff. Later on, we made nice, and then we were friends and all that. But anyway, so Roman was a fan of the Desperate Teenage Love Doll series, and so this story, okay, you didn't really ask all the intricate details, but I'm going to do it. And so one day, I was at my house, and my parents' house. I was still, I don't know, maybe 20. And we get a phone call at home, landline. We have like one of those kitchen wall phones, like the classic.
The ones we remember, but Lou doesn't know how to use.
And you want the longest cable possible to get some privacy. And it was Francis Coppola's assistant calling to invite us down to the Van Nuys Airport to meet Francis and to take a ride with him to Napa Valley for the weekend.
At his vineyard?
Yeah, what's that?
At his vineyard?
Yeah, to the home, and the Nebom Coppola vineyard. And I was like, what? This is the most elaborate prank call. Like, we're doing prank calls. This is a really good one. And so it turned out to be real. And apparently, he called his daughter, his teenage daughter, before he came home. He said, I'm coming home from LA today. Honey, is there anything you want me to bring back? And she supposedly said, yeah, bring Red Cross.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's how that happened. And so we went up for the weekend, and we met them all and hung out. They put us up in their like little guest house. And then while we were there, Roman laid this idea on us. If he wanted to make this movie, and he had this quick outline of, his time travelers, and trying to go back to 1776, ending up in 1976 instead, thinking that that was the birth of the nation. And then, but it wasn't written yet, and anyway, so it was his brainchild, and then he just asked if we wanted to do it, and then from there on, of course, Yeah, sure. And then we were,
this weekend was great.
Yeah.
So,
but I think all along the way, I mean, I don't want to take too much. I mean, I really would give my brother credit, but I think my brother was a major consultant. Things like the idea of getting David Cassidy in the film. I'm sure that came from my brother.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then not to mention like all the clothes and stuff. That was, a lot of definitely what we wore. And what the time travelers were too Sophia would have been taking a lot of notes from my brother because she was doing the costumes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, along with the movies, there's the song. So how, did that come about after the fact? Like, hey, we want you to be part of the soundtrack? Yeah.
Well, I mean, we were making a record around that time. That's when we put out our Third Eye album. And of course, we were down to try to aim to make a song for it. And I'm sure we felt very competitive with the Dickies, who also had a song. And then they got the opening title. We got the closing one. I mean, we love the Dickies and all, but,
Some of the best movies have the closing title songs. So, Goodfellas with Eric Clapton, right? Layla?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's some Goodfellas or something, right? Yeah, right.
All right, we'll diversion there.
Yeah, no, sorry, that's good.
Yeah, that's great moment.
So for the fans of the podcast, we should talk about Sparks a little bit.
Yep. I think it's that time, so.
This is a Sparks podcast. What are you talking
This is a
about?
Sparks podcast. Yeah, so,
well, first off, so we're going to talk about Sparks. We should first acknowledge that it was our fearless leader, Ron Mail's birthday.
It was yesterday.
Happy birthday, Ron.
Fearless leader.
I spent a lot of time, yes, and I feel bad, and why would I even mention this now? But I was I'm a touring musician that's in the van a lot. So if I'm not listening to an audiobook, I'm working on my Instagram account. So embarrassing.
Hey, we can pretend it's August 12th and record this thing. Hey, happy birthday.
Well, it's too late. I almost did a Ron Mail post. I was fishing through my pictures, and I found this great picture of, Ron running in, because I ran into them when they were touring with FFS.
Yeah.
And my other band, Off, we were both in Trenčín, Slovakia at the same time. Slovakia, yeah, playing a festival, and but I had the best time. I met with them for coffee, and then anyways, I found some cool shots, and I almost posted this happy birthday to Ron thing, and then chickened out. It seemed like I was just being way too name droppy. On my account lately. I can't do this. And
I wished him happy birthday, but I didn't have a photo.
Well, I definitely went to their account and wished him happy birthday. Yeah. But that's exactly it, yeah. And because also I had this major coup earlier this week where we got to see Blondie, and since I'm in the Melvins now, I get to do things like meet Debbie Harry before the show. God. And it was the first time, it was actually people were actually venomous on my Facebook page, and I felt bad. I was like, yeah, I understand. It's like, I would be jealous too. So I totally understand, but so I didn't want to be, I wanted to do two of them in a row.
Right.
And that's like.
How did you? Yeah, I mean, how did that happen? Did they come to you? When did you meet?
With the Sparks?
Ron and Russell, yeah.
So Sparks, they're LA people.
Yeah.
And first time I saw Sparks, first time, full disclosure, I didn't fully discover Sparks until later. For me, later. So it was early 90s. I was on tour. My brother had that really great Rhino collection of a lot of the early records, and that really turned me on to them. But then I did see them once in the mid 80s. I was friends with the Bangles. Me and my brother are old school girl band groupies. GBGs is really so, which was really special. I got to meet Debbie Harry because that's the ultimate. But besides my wife, of course. But but at the time, I was friends with the Bangles, and it was early Bangles before they had hits, and they were opening for Sparks at the Anaheim Convention Center. So I went to, so that would have been like Cool Places era. Yeah. It would have been in outer space, I think.
Yeah, in outer space.
Yeah. So I did see them once then, but I was too busy hanging out with the Bangles.
Well, if that's all you see of Sparks, I don't know that I would have found that too interesting.
Yeah.
But that's Now I do.
Now I
in
do
plain
too.
context, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if that was the only thing I knew in the
Yeah.
80s, I'm like, well.
And it was later that I heard like this town is big enough and all that, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then, so then flash forward many years, and I'm friends with Roddy Bottom of Faith No More.
Sure.
And Imperial Teen, and he's known those guys for years and always been a huge Sparks fan. And Faith No More, in fact, covered This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Both of Us.
Great.
And so he became friends with them probably around that. Okay. And he invited me to go see them when they were touring the Balls record.
Oh, my favorite.
Is that your favorite?
Yeah. My favorite is Balls. That's my favorite album.
I think Ron and Elsa probably would both like to shake your hand on that.
Balls is so good.
It's so good.
Well, I need to reconsider it. I have to go back to Balls, but I saw the Balls tour, not the
song.
Wow, you saw them live. Yeah, see, I haven't seen them. Well, I saw them play it in London, but on the internet, right? So.
Right, and they did because they did the Balls and the whole album on 21.
But wasn't quite as good on the internet and a small screen.
Sure, yeah, a little screen. And around that time, so. Anyways, I got introduced to them at that show, and then soon after that, Morrissey asked them to come to England because he was curating a festival. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of a festival being curated, which is now
Morrissey-esque.
Yeah, of course, you'd ask Morrissey; he'd be the first person to curate such an event, and. And he was a big Sparks fan from back from the day, and he asked them to play but they would, and it was right around the time when that was starting to become a trend too, where bands would play a whole album, and he asked them to do Come On My House, and those guys have always been really resistant to that kind of stuff, they've always been they're very interested in always moving forward, and they're very afraid of, I don't know if the word is afraid, but, nostalgia is something that I think that, they're fine with as long as it's tempered with plenty of, new relevant stuff.
Sure. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
But I didn't come to be a fan until they were playing full albums, like that's
sure.
when I rediscovered them, I guess, was the London stuff, with doing all of their albums. And then since then, when I've seen them live, they're usually playing an entire album for the first half of the show. And the first half of the show, they're doing other new shit.
Yeah, I think that's around that. Soon after that's when they started doing. And that's when I got to be a part of it, starting. And so we went to London and played this festival. I can't remember what it was called, but at any rate, we did all of Come On My House, and that just kind of started, and I played with them for over 5 years, I feel like, I can't. When was that?
At least 3 albums, right?
Yeah, I did. Well, then we toured.
So you were touring, and then you did studio stuff after.
I can't exactly remember the whole chain of events, but I was. They had already made Little Beethoven. And in fact, that's what we did that night. We did all of Kimono, and then they came back and did Little Beethoven.
Oh, Lou's favorite.
Yeah, it's a great record.
That's a great record.
It's a great record.
One of your favorites.
And then soon after that, I started touring with them, but they would only do Europe at the time. Now they're starting to do more stuff here, which is awesome.
That's so cool. And I think, Franz Ferdinand, I don't know, maybe that helped in the States, or something, but I don't get it in the States why they did it.
Oh, it's been very frustrating for me. It was so frustrating for me the whole time. Well, the thing is, they're very dedicated to, presenting things the way they want to present them, and they've had this crew that they're very loyal to back in the UK, and they just kind of felt like, well, we can't really put on the kind of show. It doesn't financially make sense to put on the kind of show we're putting on in Europe, in the States, where we're not going to be playing as large of venues. And that would drive me crazy. I'd just be like, why don't we just play clubs and just rock it out?
We'll sell out. Let's
go rock it out. Everybody what I get to do, with you guys. So I only really got to play a couple shows. We did LA a couple times and New York a couple times, I think, maybe in the States.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we went on. But so yeah, I was a part of this Hello Young Lovers and Exotic Creatures. Is there? Am I missing a record on there? I guess I always think Little Beethoven is part of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's 3 in a row, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't. I sort of showed up right after Little Beethoven.
And then you played that.
Yeah. I helped them promote that record.
That's what we I think we talked about on the SPARKS podcast, but that Ted and I saw a show at UCLA.
Oh, okay.
And didn't realize it was you.
Oh, the one on
it was Exotic
Valentine's
Creatures.
Day.
Yeah, was it on Valentine's Day?
Valentine's Day 2009.
Kimono and Exotic Creatures. Anyway,
yeah.
It was an awesome show. Really embarrassed we didn't know it was you up there until later, but it was cool.
I forgive you.
It was so cool.
Yeah, I had Neurotica back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah, and love the bass playing.
Oh,
and and I just kicked myself for not knowing that was the bass player.
While it was happening?
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, weren't they making, wasn't there a dress code where you had to wear black and it didn't look like Steve McDonald from the Neurotica era? Your hair was shorter, you had some facial hair.
Oh, yeah, we probably wore the shirts. Did we, maybe?
I think there were shirts, there was windows in the background.
Yeah, sometimes we had these turtlenecks and, yeah, right, yeah, I remember
and I
these
felt so bad.
songs.
They're like this presence on stage too. Anytime I've seen them live, I can't say I'm really looking at the band anyway.
Yeah,
you're watching Ron and Russell do their thing. It is their show.
Aren't you playing in the dark for some of it?
Yeah, well, definitely for that. Much of it was behind a screen on. When we do Exotic Creatures.
Yeah, absolutely. You were behind. That's what it was. You were behind the screen.
Yeah, during perfume and stuff, there would be imagery.
It rocked though. It was so cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, on that note of earlier records that you're involved with, you got a question about Hello Young Lovers, and kind of you're listed as additional bass. So what does that mean? So were there other players?
I don't know if there's any other electric bass players on that record. There might be, but they're probably talking about a lot of keyboard bass that would have existed on the record. There might have been another electric bass player. I can't remember. They would, those guys that make these records themselves in Russell's living room. And so just kind of get invited over sometimes and, here's the song. So, do something.
So on that album, Dickin' Around's the first song, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And I kind of have this theory, and I don't know if it's true or not, but if you look at Hippopotamus, it came out in the UK, ranked number 7. We had some questions just about dicking around that it should have been a little bit higher on the other side of the pond, and there was some misconstrued about what the song means that it may have upset Ron and Russell a little bit. Were you in the middle of any of that?
Oh, you mean like their struggles dealing with the British music industry?
Yeah, exactly. BBC.
Well, I mean, it just it was also a different era. I mean, also you have to look at. Well, first off, I mean they've got much better label support now than they had back when they were doing those records. Mm-hmm. I'm not even sure who the indie label was that put out that record. In the States, they were working with a very indie label called In the Red Records, which is my friends. I actually helped them.
Awesome.
I helped facilitate that, but Larry was the biggest Sparks fan, but his other artists on his label are people like John Spencer and underground rockers. So he did early Ty Segall records and early OC. I think OCs might have put out a record. Anyways, he's in the pantheon of garage rock, but he just has really eclectic taste. But it's very indie. And so now they're working with BMG, I think, is it?
BMG or BMI Worldwide.
Yeah, and so, but also I don't want to be dismissive because that's awesome about their chart position. That rules. But I'm not exactly sure what number 8 means in terms of sales in 2018 compared to even 2003. Things were still not as dire as they are now, you know, and
number 8 means you're worse
300
than 7
records.
others.
What's that?
Number 8 means you're worse than 7 others.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't sell very many records.
Yeah. So, you know, but I think the big thing is, you know, but I think that I'm sure that they've gotten a lot more radio support. Yeah, maybe all I do now is dick around. That lyric might have been a red flag at the BBC. I know they have good support from like the smaller stations like BBC 4, Radio 4 or something. I forget, but what the difference is there, but I think you want to get Radio 1 or Radio 2. Those are the mainstream the mainstream stations. And I imagine since the FFS thing, that's probably helped them in addition to you know, the current state of the music industry is so dire. And, you know, now you have major labels that are like excited, even if you are an underground band, that if you've got catalog, you know, and it's more like, we're going to count our micro pennies now, and that's going to, we have to, you know,
Bitcoin.
but it literally used to be like, yeah, you know, if you would sell 500,000, at least in the States back in the grunge days, bands would get dropped for selling 500,000 records, you know, wasn't meeting expectations. You know, it's crazy. So, you know, I'm not exactly sure about what the whole thing is, but to me, the Sparks, they've had their brushes with mainstream success, but I really think their real strength is the undisputed kings of the underground. And I think that, and I don't know that's a concept that they've ever truly understood or embraced, or maybe they would have been touring more in the States and found a more economical way to wear that crown here.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, because I've always thought that, you know, that they could always do that if they wanted, but, you know. So anyway, but I'm really happy that they're having a more mainstream success overseas now, and, you know, that's part of, you know, I watch them, and what they do never seems to be like, I would never really say that they are, you know, altering their music to please a particular market, but they do always still sort of strive for as wide acceptance as possible. But sometimes the records have been so unmainstream, I've kind of been like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, what are you thinking? Why did you release that? Why are you writing this right now?
Yeah, I mean, like, what you know.
But then 10 years later, you look at their catalog and it's like, whoa, you anticipated that.
Okay. Yeah, right. So, I don't know. So they're always just ahead of the curve, you know, and sometimes it seems like maybe right now, you know, they're intersecting with a time where people have caught up a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Do you have a favorite era? I mean, do you have?
Well, I love the rocker stuff, you know. I mean, I'm, you know.
You like to play the rocker stuff.
I'm an electric guitar guy, and I might have said to one of you guys recently, I think of those records, those early records as like, you know, stupid music for smart people. And you know, and that's what, you know, I strive for in my own thing, you know, 'cause I just love that, you know, I love the release of just loud, bombastic, but usually it's coupled with really moronic, you know, point of view. Not to sound too elitist and pretentious, but, you know.
But they don't take themselves seriously, and or at least it doesn't seem like they are in their lyrics. If they were, it'd be even more ridiculous. But
But yeah, I mean, I just love the way Ron expresses the different daily human experience. Yeah. It's so clever. And, you know, and I love, you know, those songs, the marrying those two things, you know, the meathead rock genre with, you know, just razor sharp smarts. And but they, and you know, they're, you know, smart people. They both went to UCLA and college educated and all that stuff. They're really very down to earth guys that don't, you know, I wouldn't call them snobs at all.
That's great. Yeah. The music doesn't seem really technically hard to play. I mean, when you had to play 12 albums in London to learn that, I mean, do they just give you sheet music and you're playing it? Yeah. I mean, how the hell do you learn 12 albums in no time? Like, I kind of made my own sort of chicken scratch notes. Okay. I don't really, I can read music, but I mean, I don't know that Ron probably reads music, but it's not really how he works, you know? Okay. And they're definitely not sitting there making notation. Here's how I want this to sound, and then you just...
Well, no, I mean, for me, I just followed their records as the blueprint, and I did my best to just do whatever was on the records, and I would write out my own kind of notation that I would understand. Okay. And then just try to commit it to memory best I could. You know, when it seemed overwhelming to me, then I would think about, well, this is nothing compared to what Russell has to do.
I can imagine the lyrics. That's just absurd.
And it was, you know.
And he didn't write most of them, right? I mean, Ron's writing the lyrics, so he's having to remember.
He's got to remember all the, even if he did write, I'm sure they would all be, you know, lost in his mind after all those years. So the fact that he remembered that he, you know, and he didn't use a teleprompter or whatever. Wow. So there's no Axl Rose teleprompter.
Crazy.
That's fantastic.
So that conspiracy theory's been busted.
I don't think so. I don't think we had a teleprompter. We might have written some lyrics out on, you know, just because sometimes I know just from my own playing that you just need that first line. Sometimes if you get the first line, then it all kind of comes. And so maybe he might have had some cheat sheets that had an opening line here and there, but
not everyone's got like the Bob Dylan brain.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you remember all that? Maybe they're just so funny. Maybe it's like remembering a good joke.
Maybe Ron's pretty close. Maybe he's just all up in his head.
Yeah.
I thought he was classically trained.
Well, he might be. I mean, I don't know his total musical history. But sight reading is a whole other story. You know, you can read music, but not necessarily be able to sit down like the way orchestra musicians, like, you know, I recently got to sit in on a Randy Newman scoring session, just watching him score a thing. And it was amazing to see these 80 players sitting down for the first time and then just going. And it sounds like, wow, that's the score for the new Cars film right there. And I'm watching it go down. These people they've heard it as much as I've heard it.
Right.
But it sounds perfect right now. And
that's all they do all day.
And then you kind of, and then musicians like me get real jealous and we act like, well, they're just like court stenographers. There's no soul in that. I mean, they bring it to the table. There's technical skills.
Bunch of hacks.
They bring the Cars score. That's what they bring.
Randy brought the Cars score, and they brought the skills to execute.
Yeah, exactly. Got to execute it somehow.
Yeah, and Ron, I'm sure probably can sit down and probably when he was in school learning piano, I'm sure he probably did some what do you call that? Performances, and maybe he's got some Debussy or whatever up his sleeve. But if you just put some Tchaikovsky in front of him, go,
Read.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like he works that way.
You have to really, he's a songwriter,
Okay.
And at this point, we take a break, we stretch, we have some salad, we have some pizza, and we rejoin the conversation. Matt's asking him about some of the earlier releases from Red Cross.
Who knows?
What about the Red Cross? What about the Red Cross EP on tape? Does that exist anywhere?
EP on tape? Oh, like on cassette?
Yeah, the 5-song.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Burger probably would like to do that. I don't know if they have, but we just recently put a CD. We made a CD that we went on tour with not that long ago, and I'm trying to remember. It's only been in the last 5 years that my brother's gotten into this. I'm so happy. It's funny and exciting.
He gets way into it. It's obviously a passion.
Yeah, and I'm glad because it's for whatever reason, I can't get excited about it.
Well, what's the deal with Red Cross? Because you teased a while ago that there was some music recorded.
Yeah, we're making a record right now.
Can that be complete, I don't know where it is in the completion process or what you can say. I mean, we're off the record, but...
Do you have a big progress bar you can just like...
yeah. What we want to know is it going to be produced with, like, you have to be there in the studio, because I'm sure the other guys are chomping at the bit saying, come on, Steve, let's get this done.
It's so funny, it's complete opposite.
No way.
No way! No way!
Get off the road with the Melvins and let's get this out.
Fine! My brother will do this, and I have like a mental block about digging through the archives.
Yeah.
But everyone else seems to have a mental block about getting their parts done on the new record, and I'm the one that has to.
You're like, let's play.
I have to put the fire in everyone's house. I'm the producer.
That's awesome. I would not have thought that.
I wouldn't have either. So is it going to be like an extension of researching the blues? Like,
I hope so. I hope it's as good as that.
I'm so eager. Like after becoming such a big Red Cross fan.
Yeah.
And it's been a long time. 2012.
I know. It's sad. I can't believe it's taken so long. 2012. The next one will come out next year.
I was hoping you guys would go on tour with Melvins. And
we are.
You did in Europe.
Well, we are going to. I wanted to do it this year, but they want us to do it next year. I mean, we'll have the new record out then.
Okay. Same label?
Yeah, merge. Unless they reject the record.
You know, at the show we went to in Colorado, is it Bang? No, not Bang. Burger Records. That record guy, did he go on tour with you?
Lee.
Nice guy, yeah. Another one of those kind of like music files with
like
all the abstract stuff. And
he's a big supporter of the band, so.
And you got this guy right now that does all the artworks.
John.
No, Brian, who does those like hand, like marker.
Oh, Brian Walsby.
Brian Walsby, yeah, that stuff's amazing.
Yeah, Brian goes out on tour. He's been doing the Melvins for like 10 years.
Can we request a certain album cover that he do? Like, because he's done Husker Du, he's done Black Flag.
I think he does commission work sometimes when he's home.
We'll give you a note to give to him.
Voivod.
Well,
talk to him tonight. We'll do some commission work.
Yeah, talk to him. But I'll warn you, one of his least favorite things is a conversation starts off with, you know what you should do? And he might be nice, but I'll hear about it later.
Uh-oh. He's probably heard every album recommendation ever. But he's so talented. He did a whole series of like Hardy Boys ones that were
that was great.
Amazing.
You know what you should do? Great, you're not even going to ask my name.
No.
We should just
how am I? Oh, it doesn't matter.
But I mean, like, I think, at shows, he's not there doing like, it's not like at the ball game or at the amusement park where there's a guy that will do the caricatures for you.
Yeah.
But I think when he's home, he will do commission stuff for people. If you reach out and you say, would you do this band as this?
Just don't start at
G.G. Allen.
Well, not just like a random, like unsolicited advice thing. More like, I would like to pay you to do this for me. Then he'll. I would imagine he would engage with that.
Money talks.
Yeah.
So does he just sell Melvins prints and stuff then on this tour?
Well, so that's part of the deal that he has with the Melvins is that they basically give him free reign in their merch booth to sell his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So Melvins aren't commissioning off his stuff.
Oh.
And then he makes a fee for being out on the road with the Melvins, but then his main juggernaut is that he's selling his artwork, and he gets to use Buzz as his muse, basically, and it's just like obscure reference, extravaganza.
They're all so funny. They're all so good. I can see why you take them on the road.
And it's always like, do you get it? Do you get the references? And a lot of it I don't get. But
we have a lot of Trailer Park Boys when you guys are in Canada.
What do we have?
The Trailer Park Boys?
I don't know. Is that a Canadian band?
Oh, no. It's a Canadian TV show.
Oh, yeah.
And he drew all the characters. He drew like John Candy. So it's kind of regional. Wherever he goes, he draws what's specific in that region.
I know that.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so you should do Osmonds.
Yeah. We saw a while Crazy Horses.
He might have done some Osmonds.
Yeah, he's on Crazy Horses. That's that one, right?
Really?
That would be my influence in the band.
Yeah, that would be your band.
That would definitely be my influence in the band. Although Buzz would say, "Nah, I know that record."
I'm sorry you can't come to the show, though. That's bullshit. You guys never play all ages venues.
Well, not in this town.
Not in this town.
Is there a good all ages venue here?
Yeah.
It's bigger than urban. I mean, that's the problem.
There's a one venue or something?
That sucks. Well, I can't say it sucks because I go see a lot of shows.
The one
there's 2 rooms at that one, right?
Yeah,
is that one all ages?
Yeah, they do have an all ages.
Is it just the big room? Do they do all? Do they
yeah,
do
like
all?
where you saw Ghost.
The one at Gateway. What is that?
No, but the depot, the Gateway's all ages, and that's cool. Right?
Yeah, that's a
the
great
Gateway.
place.
Yeah, the depot's really cool.
Depot's the one where it's all ages on the first floor.
We saw Ghost there too, right?
Yeah, I've seen Ghost twice there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
No. Once there, once at the complex.
Once there. You saw him.
Yeah.
You saw it. You saw him.
Well, just that on the next Red Cross record, there's a Sparks cover.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think my question, I want to talk about your cover of When Do I Get to See My Way, and just what drew you to that song specifically.
Yeah. So
because it's so great.
I love that song. I played it a lot with them when we were touring. So yeah, there is an EP that I did. Melvins had me do a solo EP last year, but they only printed like 400. I guess it was vinyl only, and I guess someone's put it up on YouTube or something.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, well, thank you. But not many people know about it. No one's ever mentioned it to me. Literally, I think one kid in Asbury Park, New Jersey, mentioned it to me, and I was so desperately like, "You like it?" It was sad for me.
Does Ted have a signed copy? Is yours signed? So 2 people have mentioned it to you because he had you sign one.
Yeah, we sold it. Yeah, we sold them out and everything. But at any rate, so when Red Cross,
Yeah, we went out to Denver
to
see Red Cross, and I had a SPARKS shirt on, and you said, I covered when
I played it for you.
Yeah.
On the street.
Yeah.
See, more evidence of my desperate need. Can you believe that?
You take out your phone and
well,
you put it in my ear.
Day, so thank you.
Yeah.
I don't think Ted has ever been so happy.
You're like,
it's a relationship.
It took about a week for him to stop talking.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'll tell you, it really boosted my ego for me too.
Great. It was good.
Yeah, so you played that song a lot, and you
When Do I Get to Sing My Way was one of those songs that they did in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
And it's produced by the Pet Shop Boys, who I've never really, no offense, I've never been a big fan of.
Sure.
And,
Balls is my favorite album, too.
I know, I totally get it. We're all grown-ups here, so.
It's fine.
We're all coaches.
Exactly.
But we would use, that would be one of the songs that we would be using quite a few backing tracks on the original recording. We'd be playing along with, so that. So I mean, not vocals or whatever, but like a lot of the keyboard stuff.
Okay.
And it would be funny because the guitar player who was playing at the time, Josh Klinghoffer, is now in the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He was my friend that we played in Beck's band together, and then I kind of helped him get the gig with Sparks or whatever. And we would always when before we play that song, when those backing tracks would come on for that song, we'd always kind of look at each other like, oh my God. It's like handbag house music.
Exactly.
Handbag house, and sort of Eurotrash in the mid-90s. And but I remember just loving playing the song because I just loved the song. It's
a great song.
It's just
cool video, great song.
Yeah, it's just ultimate ode to frustration.
Yeah.
And so I thought when I was suddenly in this rush to put together a solo EP for the Melvins, I managed to put together 3 originals, but then I was just trying to think of what would be a great cover, what would be a good cover that a lot of people wouldn't know, and what could I add something to or do something that I would feel excited about. And I just thought that was a song that I wanted to do it like the way I described early Sparks, which I thought of as stupid music for smart people. So make it, rock it up, and hoo it up a bit, and knowing those guys love that kind of music too, you know. And so, and I just thought maybe it would sort of lift a veil for other Sparks fans that share my taste in Sparks and go like, oh wow, I never even considered that tune because of that production.
Exactly.
Thinking back, I guess it was because of the production, because the Bones are just a classic Sparks
song,
tune, you know. And I mean, that's
so cool. That's it. We have like an ongoing like mix CD that I make for the car that is like covers that kill. So that's like it's made the cut.
Is that my version?
Your version.
So how did you manage to? Because you would have to use some special app to rip it off of the ripped version.
Off of YouTube.
Off of YouTube. But I feel okay about that since we bought the vinyl. So you know.
Oh no! I was judging you. But thank you for buying the vinyl too. But
well, it would be great if it was sold digitally. So
that whole EP. I'm not sure what I'll do with it eventually, but so for the Red Cross version, I plan on. I think that the guitar players in Red Cross will probably recut my guitars because I played all of those.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be a little bit more legit Red Cross, but we'll leave the guitar solo, which was the only part besides the drums that I didn't do, and that was done by Josh Klinghoffer.
Oh, cool.
The Red Hot Chili Peppers and formerly of Sparks along with me. So we'll keep Josh in there because I thought that was a real cool bond.
That's great.
Did he do some of the harmonizing, the vocal harmonizing as well?
Did Josh?
Yeah.
On my version?
Yes.
No, that's all me. That's all me.
I love it.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, I'm trying. But I haven't played it for the brothers yet, you know. And
what? They have to have heard through the grapevine. I'm sure.
Maybe. I mean, it's not like that YouTube page gets a lot of action, as far as I know. And I think there was only like 300 copies printed. And the other thing was I was so like, because Amphetamine Reptile didn't even credit them. They didn't ask me for any. That was the thing that.
Oh.
When I got the vinyl, it was like, awesome! Why did you also don't give somebody credit on that?
What have you done?
Yeah.
It was just signed and numbered, right? That was it.
Yeah.
Like, awesome packaging, signed and numbered. No credits.
Yeah, no credits.
So that's why I had to ask, like, who's doing what?
Yeah, so that's the thing. And it's, so I definitely didn't want to hand that to them because, you know, I felt really sad that not only did I not get any credit for any of the special, you know, knob turning I did. That's fine. I'll take the abuse, but I can't do that to Ron and Russell. But anyways, I'm very excited that it will eventually be on. That it's going to be on the next KROSS record, and I will ceremoniously present it to them. And,
nice.
And I'm excited about that.
That's great. That's great.
I thought they would have already called and been like, Steven, we're so proud of you.
You knocked it out
so
of the park
proud
on
of
that
you.
one.
Well, they would have been like, where are mechanical royalties? Amphetamine Reptile doesn't pay mechanicals. But
Mr. Bones, where's my money?
No, they wouldn't have done that. But I mean, I just think that the least that I could have offered them was like, you know, boasting that they wrote the song. You know, that was their song.
It's your song now.
Yeah, well.
Well, thank you so much for talking with
so
us about Sparks, about what you're doing. We're
sure. Thanks
love
for
to
having
follow
me.
you on tour.
I think it's terrific you guys are doing this. And are you excited about the documentary that they're working on now?
Yes, we're excited about that. We've heard. And yeah, are you going to be in that? You hope?
You know what? I've been meaning to like text someone like, I better be at least like one glimpse of a talking head for 1 second if you're doing those.
Well, maybe
we'll start a campaign.
We'll start a GoFundMe. We'll have their people contact your people And,
we'll see if we can.
Isn't that how it works?
We'll start sending like chain spam emails.
Yeah, we want more Steve McDonald on the dock. Well, I don't know who this film is. He's a big fancy filmmaker.
Baby Driver.
Baby Driver.
Director.
Baby Driver.
I wish I knew his name.
Oh, Baby Driver.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a Hollywood. That's a Hollywood, but it's not. That's it's not like a animated feature. Baby Driver. Or no. Okay, I was thinking of
Ryan Gosling.
Oh,
I think you're thinking of Drive.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Sorry. I'm thinking of the one with...
Not Drive.
No, Adam Driver? Is it the one with
Baby
Adam?
Driver was nominated for a bunch of awards.
Yeah. I know the name. And for some reason, I might have thought it was a Pixar movie for a moment about like a baby that can drive.
Boston Baby exists, so that's not.
So I wasn't that far off.
You're not that far off.
Okay. I'm not that brain damaged.
But we are excited about the documentary, and I mean, I don't know, as fans, you don't get that much insight into who they are.
Yeah, they're enigmas.
They're really a mystery. So I'm excited to see if they can get past that wall, break that wall.
I was surprised that they're doing it at all because I've asked them, because, they're like role models to me since I've got to know them, and their brother team from Los Angeles that are strangely, they're elusive, and so beloved, and so I want to be like that too. And so whatever they've done to cultivate that, and I thought that it's like there must be millions of requests to do your documentary. Right. You guys must have purposely not have done one, and but I mean they must have been holding out obviously for. The Baby Driver guy, but
hey, it's his name is Edgar Wright, by the way.
He
also did Shaun of the Dead. He did a Beck documentary, Colors.
Okay.
He's done
Cornetto trilogy,
Hot Fuzz, which was classic.
Cornetto trilogy.
Lewis knows more about film than the rest
of
us.
I know a lot of these, but
he also did A World's End, the third one of the Cornetto trilogy.
Right.
Well, I'm going to do my research. I mean, I'm sure that the guy is quality if they're endorsing him.
Yeah.
He's good.
And letting him into the annals and archives.
Into their life.
That's a lot of trust.
Yeah. Well, because I love that, I mean, it's like you listen to those early records, you're like, who are these people? Russell's singing with this weird French accent.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was thinking when I first became, you start looking back. Luckily, I became a fan after the internet, so it was so awesome. I thought you start going down the rabbit hole of Sparks, and it's like, holy cow, who are these people, you know? And then you hear them on an interview, and it's like, you've got an LA accent, man. This guy sounds like a surfer dude.
Yeah, they're from
this guy.
Yeah.
Secretly, he's actually too.
I don't know.
There's that whole Beach Boy connection that people always make just because you're from Hawthorne.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you mean for me?
Yeah.
Oh, for you, yeah.
Yeah.
Same accent, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Be true to your school.
Hey, I mean, if you're good enough to play a Carl Wilson, come on, you had the accent down.
Yeah, it's true, I guess. Yeah, well, I mean, we went to the same high school, so.
That's true to your school, but I'm
I wasn't very true to my school.
Yeah.
You hated your school. You wrote a song about it.
I did hate my school. You wrote a song about it before I ever even went to the school.
That's why I thought you played in the public schools down there, wherever Alfie's going to school.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again.
Sure. Thanks for having me, you guys. It's been a real treat.
Looking forward to the show tonight.
Yeah, it's a lot funner than just hanging out in the backstage at the Urban Lounge.
I can imagine. The green room isn't too impressive.
It's fine. I'm grateful.
No, it's
fine. Over my head.
This will be like a springboard for us, because eventually with the podcast, we want to get Dean Menta,
I forgot about this during the interview, but just one more last thing. My origins of playing with Sparks, much of it's owed to Dean Menta.
Oh, okay.
When I was first playing with them, Dean was playing guitar, and I knew Dean through Roddy Bottom from Faith No More. So Dean was really, I think that Dean would have been the person that would have recommended me.
Oh, great!
Because he was already playing with them, and
let's take this guy on tour.
Dean, and then we went on those first tours with Dean.
Oh, great!
The first tours that I did was with Dean, and he's a great guy.
Cool. Okay.
It's very great to see all you guys successful. Dean, you, and I remember her name.
Tammy.
Tammy, yeah, that you've all got your own things and you're all still making music. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and then Jim and Marcus, who played in Mother Superior. Those guys are always doing
Rollins
stuff.
Band, too.
Yeah, Rollins Band, and they're super freaky talented, those guys.
Cool. Right on. Thank you.
Well, Josh Klinghoffer is in a little band called the Red Hot Chili
We need to be writing down all these names because do you know the new guys that they're with?
No, well, they were playing with that one kid, Taylor something. And I don't know if he's still playing with them, but he was in a band called, he was in Rooney, Rooney is sort of like, do you remember Phantom Planet by any chance? This is, yeah, not your, it would have been.
We remember Phantom Planet.
These are they're sort of like power pop bands from the early 2000s.
Oh, okay. No, there's a whole. That's when I had a kid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm saying, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It would have been, yeah, whatever. People are still doing rock and roll.
Yeah, exactly. I phased out for a little bit, then kind of go back.
I'm keeping a human being alive here. But yeah, well, I knew the singer Rooney. He's Jason Schwartzman's little brother.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So, and Robert Schwartzman. Yeah, and there's always a connection there with Sparks. So Jason, I think he had a cameo in the Ingmar Bergman thing when we did it live in LA.
Yeah, we were there. We were there.
Yeah, Jason said that he performed. Is that
really?
Nice?
Okay.
Well,
he was another great musician that you guys just totally ignored.
Yeah, we did.
Ron
and Russell.
You're getting the evil eye from Ron.
I don't know. I missed everything else.
Yeah, so busy tracking of the Mail Brothers.
Exactly.
That you missed a few miracles along the way.
I'll take that now. Right on. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, thank you guys.
All I do is stick around. The sun goes up, the moon goes down, the leaves are green, the leaves are brown, and all I do is stick around. All I do is stick around. The sun goes up, the moon goes down, the leaves are green, the leaves are brown, and all I do is stick around. All I do is stick around. The sun goes up, the moon goes down, the leaves are green, the leaves are brown, and all I do is stick around. All I do is stick around. The sun goes up, the moon goes down, the leaves are green, the leaves are brown, and all I do is stick around. All I do is stick around. The sun goes up, the moon goes down, the leaves